Dustin Poirier is coming off the loss to the lightweight champion Charles Oliveira, and said he's hasn't found anything too interesting other than that Nate Diaz fight at welterweight, and also Nate Diaz coming off a loss, and he's been posting a lot about the Dustin Poirier fight. They've just been having a huge back and forth on all social medias, talking a lot of crap to each other. This is a huge fan favorite fight for everyone to see.
Yeah, I mean, like they were scheduled to fight all the way back on like UFC 230, so a couple of years ago, and now with the star power and the rise of Dustin Poirier obviously beating Conor McGregor twice this year or last year. So I mean, his star has gone up tremendously, but having that loss to Charles Oliveira was kind of hard for him. So I mean, I think he wants to go up to welterweight at least for this one off against Nate Diaz, because of course fighting Nate Diaz you're gonna go up to welterweight, but they're both interested. Dustin Poirier is definitely interested. I mean, like 3 days after the Charles Oliveira fight, he was already like booked that fight for January, even though that didn't end up
Yeah,
happening.
that's
They
yeah.
both just wanted it already, like right off the bat. But I think realistically for this fight to happen, I mean, Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington just got booked for UFC 272 for the main event. The undercard of that fight is gonna be all non-title fights, obviously. So I think this fight would be perfect on that card. And there's been talks of this fight happening. Dustin Poirier claimed that they were in pretty good talks, and that this fight would happen relatively soon.
It is Nate Diaz. I said yes. Now we're waiting on him.
So I think it might happen, and it'd be so interesting and so exciting because this is such an anticipated fight.
Yeah, and it would be a lot bigger than when it was first booked at UFC 230, as now Dustin Poirier has just rose and rose and rose in fame after beating Max Holloway, after beating Dan Hooker, after beating Conor McGregor twice, and also even though he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov and also to Charles Oliveira, this still kind of pushed his name even further, as now more people know him, and of course Nate Diaz, people know he's one of the biggest stars in the sport,
Yeah.
especially after being Connor in that upset in their first fight. I'm sure both of these guys have as well gotten better, as well. Definitely display from the Poirier's side, even though he lost his last fight. It was evident in the Conor McGregor fights, and you could see the improvement from him, and you could see by the skills of the two, and how Nate Diaz's iron chin.
Yeah.
The guy is just like a zombie, just keeps coming and coming and coming. And Dustin Poirier versus him would be a great fight due to we know he has a lot of power, able to drop Charles a couple times, and it would be interesting to see how the striking would match up. So it would be interesting to see what kind of tools and weapons they would use. I think personally it would definitely be a stand-up fight, as that's what kind of Nate Diaz wants to bring
That's
as
what they
well to the
promised.
table, and both guys, yeah, and it would be probably a war. I definitely think that Poirier would win that fight, as Nate Diaz he hasn't been that active other than that Leon Edwards fight, and he's been kind of losing quite a few fights recently, even though it's been to very tough guys, but still, Dustin has just looked apart from losing to Charles Oliveira, who of course is a fantastic fighter. So it's no huge shame in that, but otherwise he's looked amazing in there.
Yeah, even though this probably will be a stand-up fight, both of these guys have black belts in jiu-jitsu. So they both are able to do that as well, and they have great grappling. So it's just an overall interesting fight, and it's definitely anticipated because this fight has been in the makings for so long, and the trash talk these guys have for each other. I mean, it makes sense for both of them. Nate Diaz obviously wanting to get a credible win in the sport after coming off his loss to Leon Edwards, and he's not currently ranked in welterweight. And obviously Dustin Poirier coming off his loss to Charles Oliveira. So I think it makes sense, and I think it will happen because I mean the UFC just makes the fights we want to see.
That a fight you guys are hoping happens sometime
Yeah,
in the
listen,
next
if
few
that's a
months?
fight that they want and the fans want to see, we'll do it.
So I think why not make this one as well? So, but yeah, I think Poirier would definitely have the advantage, especially just with his style. He has super tricky style with like effective shoulder rolls, and obviously his switch combos, and the way he deceives his opponents. So I think he'd do well on the feet there.
Dustin Poirier for a long time now been talking about moving up from lightweight to welterweight. Of course, we know how he's a massive lightweight,
Yeah.
and I don't, and of course made featherweight somehow, but he's just massive for that frame in general. And Nate Diaz has been fighting at welterweight. Of course, he's fought at lightweight before, but for all of his recent fights, he's been fighting at welterweight, and he's looked better there from when he's fought at lightweight. And I think that's more of his. It's where he kind of performs better. So, and I wonder how that would affect things with mainly Dustin Poirier.
And I mean, they're both UFC like veterans. They've been with the UFC for over 10 years, and they've been with the organization for a long time, and they have a lot of experience. And a lot of the fans love to see both of them, and both of them having two fights with Conor McGregor, who's obviously the biggest star in the sport by far, has given both of these guys a huge push in the sport and just becoming huge draws. Individually, so yeah, them two going off against each other would definitely be super exciting. It would definitely be interesting to see how this would do. And as you said, in welterweight, with Dustin being able to make that weight much more comfortably, it would be interesting to see how that would impact things.
Both of these guys love to scrap and just go at it 110%. And it would be interesting to see if someone breaks first, what's happened, like what will happen if Nate Diaz might get dropped, what might happen if Poirier gets stunned and he gets out cardioed by, of course, the cardio freak of Nate Diaz and just the sheer volume from Nate Diaz. As of course we know, he's more of a volume fighter, and when he really pours it on and pours on that pressure, is where guys tend to crack. Justin Poirier is more of a hard hitting fighter, and he more throws shots to hurt with his
Yeah.
shift combinations and his different straight punches and hooks. They're more powerful, so that clash will be interesting to see.
The edge in this fight, of course, goes to Dustin Poirier. I mean, he's just had a lot of success in recent years. While Nate Diaz hasn't been active, and when he has, he came up short against both Masvidal and Leon Edwards. So I think definitely stylistically and I mean just resume wise right now, it definitely favors Dustin Poirier. I think he'd probably win that. Maybe knock down Nate Diaz a couple of times, but I mean Nate Diaz is as tough as they come. So it would be interesting if he'd be able to get him out of there because not many people are able to. So yeah, definitely be an exciting fight, and this is definitely the fight to make in the UFC.